The reptilians are quite a popular rumored alien race. Despite their fairly prominent popularity, they are not too frequently reported by the experiencers. They are usually considered to be a malevolent race, with its main intentions being gradual corruption of the human society and takeover of control over the human elites. On top of that, the reptilians are also allegedly conducting an extensive genetic manipulation program, with their possible goal being the creation of human-reptilian hybrids and eventual complete control over the human race. The more extreme views portray reptilians as a race which is planning to eventually execute a full-scale culling of the humans, perhaps leaving a token population compared to the levels of today in total enslavement and subservience to the reptilians. The idea that the reptilian aliens are behind our human elites has been popularized by the British conspiracy theory author David Icke, who claims that the vast majority, if not all, of human royal bloodlines and people in the positions of power come from bloodlines and families which are either reptilian hybrids, and sometimes people are even substituted by actual reptilian aliens themselves in those families. This leads us to the rumored characteristics of the reptilians. In addition to their natural lizard-like appearance with scaly skin and quite characteristic eyes with vertical pupils, they seem to be in control of and are able to use advanced mimicry, being able to pose as humans if they wish to do so. Following the same logic, they would be more susceptible to cold than humans are, and are generally more cold-blooded than we are. As we have mentioned, they are usually, if not almost universally, considered to be malevolent. As regards their origin, they seem to hail from the constellation of Draco, with the star system of Alpha Draconis most frequently indicated as their origin. Other sources indicate their presence in the belt of Orion and possibly in the Rigel system in the same constellation. While the tall Nordics are most human-like of the races we have discussed so far, the mantid beings are the least human-like. They are one of the more frequent races allegedly encountered by the experiences, including abductions. Some people claim to have come into contact with mantid-like beings under the influence of psychedelics, especially DMT. The typical representation of a mantid alien being mentions a bipedal insectoid creature, usually much taller than a human being, standing at approximately 8 feet. They are often dressed in long robes, rendering their appearance a scholarly touch. Despite their non-human appearance, the mantids seem to be extremely wise, intelligent, and knowledgeable. They seem to be one of the most technically developed, but also one of the most spiritual alien races out there. They are also allegedly an extremely old race, and the combination of all these traits is said to make other alien races often take a stance of deference towards the mantid people. The mantid aliens are often experienced surrounded by small greys, who seem to be their assistants, possibly android beings created to fulfill various tasks of their insectoid masters. The mantids are patient and relatively benign, and they seem to be content with imparting people with knowledge of various things, especially the abductees who are invited aboard their craft. They do not seem to bear malicious intent towards humanity, and neither are they particularly benevolent. It is possible that if they are an extremely old race, the notions of human morality are something they left far behind in the past. The small blue aliens are creatures encountered by an experiencer and the writer, Whitley Strieber, his wife and friends. Those creatures were also portrayed in a movie titled Communion, based on experiences and a book written by Strieber. They are short beings standing at about 1 meter and are of a rather stocky stature. According to one lady who encountered them, she described them, "You are so ugly," as they resemble elderly people with wrinkled skin. Those beings seem to be interdimensional rather than extraterrestrial in nature, and it is a mystery as to where they exactly come from. The visitors, as Strieber called them, are not particularly interested in the physical side of life and in the body of human beings. They seem to care, however, for the spiritual development of human beings, and according to Strieber, they seem to be tightly wound into and are related to what happens to humans after we die. Perhaps they act as a kind of hypnopomps or even psychopomps, namely guides who lead human souls into the afterlife. All of these are only conjectures, of course, and there is no guarantee whatsoever as to their intention and role. Those beings seem to appear wearing robe-like attires, often with hoods, and have invariably dark blue skin. They are reported to show some telekinetic abilities and can communicate telepathically. Their attitude towards humanity seems to be neutral to mildly benevolent. The year 2024 saw the publication of a scientific paper titled Extraterrestrial Life in the Thermosphere, Plasma's UAP Pre-Life Fourth State of Matter by R. Joseph et collaborators. You can find the link below. In this scientific paper, the authors consider the possibility of plasmas, namely structures formed in the upper atmosphere and above it. Those structures behave like quasi-life forms, resembling multicellular organisms. There are bits of natural speculations that go one step further, claiming that if this is the case, there is nothing that would technically prevent even sentient plasmoid and non-corporeal life forms to exist in the universe. Following this logic, some people in the UFO community started to claim that perhaps many of the so-called spirits the practitioners of the occult supposedly have come into contact with may as well have been some kind of such beings. The most outlandish of such theories involve even more complex mechanisms like quantum entanglement, which would potentially enable non-corporeal beings to come into contact with humanity and other life forms across practically unlimited distances across the universe. The few selected more popular alleged alien races presented above are just a fraction of all the reported beings people have come into contact with. Depending on the source, there are claims of any number of between 4 and over 100 different species or races of otherworldly visitors spotted on Earth thus far. And just as there are many reports, there are as many supposed allegiances, places of origin of the beings, hierarchies, and characteristics. Perhaps the notion proposed by the veteran of UFO research Jacques Vallée holds the most merit. He does not claim to know what kind of an intelligent design is behind the phenomenon. He does, however, claim that the phenomenon seems to have a trickster quality to it and that it hides behind the many faces we can and do observe. From craft which varies in terms of its shape, size, and apparent function, through the visual appearance of the visitors, down to their displayed abilities and qualities. The only certain thing that we can say is that, to paraphrase a saying, the phenomenon is not only weirder than we supposed, it's actually much weirder than we can even suppose. In regards to the next video, I originally intended to cover the alleged alien abductions, especially the perhaps best known and documented case of Betty and Barney Hills. However, recent weeks have brought in some very interesting developments which I will be quite eager to present the next time we meet. Until then, take care and do not forget to like, subscribe and share the video if you enjoyed it.